I was just gonna look on YouTube.
We are now live on YouTube. NFL Saturday wild card reaction. Right now, we are streaming this through Playback. Playback is partnered with us, and each time we do a stream on here, we get a little chunk of money, from doing it, and that's why we're grateful for Playback. So all the NFL playoff games after them, we will be streaming exclusively on Playback. Normal episodes will be on YouTube as always. We'll be going live there on YouTube exclusively. How you guys doing today, fellas?
I'm doing good.
Bad.
I don't see us live on YouTube though.
Oh, we aren't. Sorry.
I don't see us. I'm on the Pick a Side YouTube. I don't see us.
Sorry, it's public now. It was unlisted.
Here we go. Okay, we're live on YouTube. Good day. We linked up. I saw Drew a little bit for the first game with the Texans. I saw Joel for the Chiefs game. I saw him pull out the Mahomes jersey. I said, we're in for an all-timer tonight. I said that the hate is going to be generational if this game goes a certain way. And, yeah, he was blowing up Twitter tonight. But I was good. How about you, fellas?
Can't complain too much. A little bit of what I anticipated tonight, other than the fact that I would have liked to see my boy play a little bit better than what he did. But, hey, like I said, we go down with the ship. It is what it is. Definitely not – I don't feel as bad as I did versus the Bills. That one definitely hurt a little bit more. This one was a little bit more anticipated. But a solid game, funny game to watch. Some good highlights will be taken away from this, and a lot of them will be memes for the idea. Mahomes popped his helmet. Andy Reid has a popsicle mustache. But, of course, you guys – I know you guys are here. You guys are here to hear me talk about Tua and how, of course, he was disappointing in this game. Y'all want me to delete my tweets. Y'all want me to go back on everything I ever said about Tua. You guys know better than that. That's not who I am. I still trust in my guy. He didn't have a good performance today. Like I said, I kind of anticipated this one, especially once I saw the weather forecast. We understand that Tua is not the best when it comes to these situations. However, it is what it is. Great game by the Kansas City. Played an excellent game. They executed a great game plan. And on the defensive side of the ball, they went out there and stopped it. But, hey, let me ask you before we get too crazy. Mr. Moran, how are you doing today? Because I know that you could talk a little bit more about that than me.
I'm doing good, man. And, I love when Drew gets into talking about the Dolphins. Tua ain't play the best. Oh, but let's credit the Chiefs, credit the game plan. Of course, we got to do that. But, I mean, if he's an elite quarterback, he got to play well through these conditions, Mr. Drew.
I think you're 1,000% right. It's tough to do this because not many games have been played in this situation. But again, in very cold situations, Tua hasn't been the best. But in the fourth coldest game in NFL history, signs weren't looking too good for those Miami Dolphins. But hey, listen, Patrick Mahomes proved why he's at a different level than a majority of quarterbacks in these situations. In this one specific game, he went out there and he fucking lit shit up. He was incredible to watch. Got to give credit where credit is due.
Drew sounds like a head coach post game after a team loses.
Yeah,
this is political answers. He's not trying to admit
I don't know
that
what
he
you
was
want
wrong.
me to say. I said, hey,
it's
I
too
definitely
an elite quarterback.
After today, probably won't have him in that conversation, but I still feel confident that, to me, he's still an elite guy. And going forward, I still trust that he could be the franchise quarterback of the Miami Dolphins. This wasn't a great game by him by any means, but, you come back and you try to do it again next year. Got better from last year. You can only get better for the following year, so that's always a plus.
There were a lot of things that I enjoyed about today. I ate some really good food. 2-0 so far on my playoff picks. Picked the Chiefs over the Dolphins. Picked the Texans over Browns. The Texans outcome shocked me a little bit. Right now, we got 101 viewers in the YouTube live chat. We got 43 on Playback. Shout out to you guys. But, of course, we got to get into this game. 26-27, the Chiefs win. And even if you thought – 26-7. Yeah. Even if you thought the Dolphins were going to lose, you probably didn't expect this outcome. And I just have to say, can the Chiefs get some goddamn respect now? Can they get some goddamn respect? I'm here wearing my Mahomes jersey because I'm a proud Mahomes fan. But goddamn, all season long, they were disrespected like they were a team that would be one and done in the playoffs. And I understand it was a favorable matchup against Miami, but we cannot use those excuses because the Dolphins defense came into this game injured, but was the most impressive unit for the Dolphins tonight. They got multiple stops in the red zone, and the offense for the Dolphins is the one that couldn't get going. I said this before about Tua, but really defenses, especially defenses that have elite level coordinators, they have started to play inside leverage on these Dolphins receivers, forcing out breaking routes. Tua cannot win consistently throwing out breakers. It's just not a throw he's comfortable throwing, and that limits this offense tremendously. They try to establish the run. The Chiefs stop the run very well. They're a much more physical team, but the elephant in the room for the Dolphins right now is that they have a quarterback that's clearly limiting the offense. For all the great stats that he has against subpar opponents, when he plays playoff teams, those stats are average. Those stats are mediocre. And now in his first ever playoff game, a game that many fans of Tua were anticipating for him to be in, wasn't the most ideal conditions, but he struggled throwing the ball. The one touchdown he had was an egregious underthrow to Tyreek Hill, and he took it for a 50-yard touchdown. I mean, at some point, we have to stop having Tua in these conversations that he does not belong in, because it's clear he doesn't possess the high-end traits like other quarterbacks, and when the moments matter the most, he's not playing great. As for the Chiefs can go back to the Super Bowl, and people are going to think that's crazy, but it's not. All the Chiefs needed was for one receiver to step up, and Rashee Rice has stepped up, and he's become that receiver. 130 yards in his first ever playoff game. The Chiefs have an elite defense, the best coach in the NFL, the best quarterback in the NFL, one of the best tight ends in the NFL. They now have a complementary piece next to him in Rashee Rice, and they can run the football. If they can run the football, be effective in that area, play elite defense, this team can go to the Super Bowl. And with a quarterback like Mahomes, they could even win it. I'm tired of the Chiefs' disrespect all year long, calling them fraudulent. In their first ever playoff game, this wasn't a nail biter. They beat the shit out of the Dolphins. It wasn't even close. And the score could have been much worse because the Chiefs had a ton of missed opportunities in this one as well.
Go ahead, Drew.
Go ahead, Mr. Dehls. I mean,
we're here for Dolphins.
I guess that's fair. The Kansas City Chiefs definitely, like I said, executed a solid, sound game plan. Too, of course, Mahomes made and executed some high-level throws, and sometimes even the best receiver on his team, Travis Kelce, came up a little bit short in 3 drops, but still had himself a decent ball game at the end of the day, 7 catches, 71 yards. But the real MVP on that offense outside of Mahomes was Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice goes for over 100 yards. He won consistently. The middle of the field was wide open for him. He was doing whatever he wanted. I don't disagree too much about that Miami defense when it comes to getting stops in the red zone. They definitely were huge in that regard. But getting stops before then, that was definitely tough for them. But again, I don't have any true criticism for the Miami Dolphins defense, given the way that it performed, given all the injuries that it did suffer. For them to go out there and limit the Chiefs the way that they did, got to give some praise to the Miami Dolphins defense there, especially for how many backup guys that they had in that situation. But they just made some big plays. Kansas City on 3rd, 4th down, didn't matter. They stood strong. Mahomes stood strong in that pocket. Had some time to chill in that pocket. If you're going to give Mahomes 5, 6 play, GG's, it's over in that, and if that's going to happen. But for Miami, I said this before we went live on YouTube. I still feel where, yes, my guy Tua definitely came up short in this one. I would have loved to see, once the run game was non-existent, you tried it against the Bills. You were killing in the run, and then you went away from it. In this one, you stuck with the run a little bit too long for my liking. I wish that you would have just given Tua a couple more chances to try and air the ball out a little bit more. But I understand that early on in the contest, Tua had those opportunities, and he kind of fell short a little bit. But they let Tua air it out. Yes, it was an underthrow, but big plays happen when you allow your quarterback to try and at least push the ball downfield. Yes, Tyreek Hill carried 90% of that play. But at the same time, you didn't get to this point by playing safe football. It did not happen. You won this game by trusting your quarterback, by letting it rip, and I just did not like that McDaniel did not adjust in this game. But for sure, would have liked to see Tua step up a little bit more in this situation. You're right. When I want to put him in these conversations, yeah, you got to pull up in these games. but the conditions weren't great for him, and obviously the result followed. He definitely did not.
Joel, I already know what you're going to say.
Dehls,
I'll say it for you. I already know. I understand the criticism of Mike McDaniel. I can't give him much criticism in this game. Mike McDaniel knows this offense. He knows Tua better than anybody in the world. This offense turned Tua into a star. Tua got better himself, but adding Tyreek Hill, being in Mike McDaniel's offense, who is, I think, it's not an argument, a top 5 play caller of the NFL, he understood the limitations around Tua, and that's what the game plan was tonight. I mean, the one play that stood out was, I want to say in the third quarter, it's 3rd and 14, they run a screen pass. We saw Mahomes dropping back, either making big throws down the field, either making plays with his legs. Tua just can't do that. This was a game that, from the jump, really felt outmatched. Chiefs went down the field 7-0. They got stopped. It felt like drive after drive in the red zone where it felt like it could have been 21-0 at halftime if they were able to capitalize on some of their issues, some penalties too that took back a touchdown. It felt like this game could have gotten out of hand really quick, but credit to Miami's defense, who allowed the Chiefs to move the ball basically all game. But when it came to the red zone, they stood up and made this a somewhat close game in the second half. But this looked like a team that wasn't used to the cold weather. This looked like a quarterback who is not going to be able to live up near to what the opposing quarterback did and Patrick Mahomes in this type of weather, in this environment. This was my biggest concern coming into this game, was what's Tua going to look like in freezing cold temperatures on the road in Kansas City. I've been beating the drum for months saying the most important thing for Miami is to get the number 1 seed. And down the stretch of the season, they just fell apart. Tennessee game. Then you get blown out by Baltimore. Then you have a chance in Week 18, one final chance, and you lose that game in Buffalo, where it felt like in the second half it really wasn't even a contest. And what makes this even more difficult is going forward, I don't care what Miami does September, October, November, even December, because we've seen 2 years in a row now. They look like the best offense in football, sometimes by far. You have Tua being in MVP conversations for 8 to 10 weeks of the season, but now we've seen 2 years in a row where down the stretch, given 2 years ago, it was injuries, but this season with Tua healthy, the rails or the train just fell off the tracks, where this offense just fell apart, and the lows of this offense can get so low. I feel like we've talked about a lot about Philly's offense kind of falling apart, and outside of this Giants game this past week in Week 18 where Hurts gets injured, I don't feel like they have even as lows as Miami's offense, where it feels very difficult to move the ball down the field. So overall, it's going to be an interesting conversation about Tua, because you have to decide on his 5th-year option. Are you going to go the Daniel Jones route, decline it, give him a make or break year, or do you pick it up? My apologies. They picked up the 5th year. So that means he would have what, 1 year remaining after next year?
This year, yes.
This year. So it's going to be a big year for Tua. I don't think Miami's going to go into this offseason and just saying, here's $200 million. I think we're going to go into next year saying this is a boomer bust, make it or break a year to be a franchise quarterback for the Dolphins.
Man, let's just be honest here, man. Dehls, you said a lot of what I wanted to say, and Drew put something in the chat for you to read, so I would like for you to read that. But listen, when it comes to Tua, we just have to be honest about him. And what annoys me about what Drew says when he talks about Tua is that I hear the same story often. When they lose a big game, it's they didn't run enough. This time it's they didn't pass enough, but usually it's always been they didn't run enough. Now it's they didn't pass enough. If they passed more, they would have gotten beaten by more. They would have gotten blown out because Tua would have thrown maybe 2 more interceptions. That's what would have happened. That's the truth of it. And the reality is that when the Dolphins play well, when Tua has a great game, I don't never hear Drew. I don't ever hear you mention, man, Mike McDaniel, genius. He's so great. It's all Tua. It's 99% Tua. Then when he plays bad, now you want to point fingers at everybody but him. And you know what? This is a question for the fans. This is a question for the audience. If Joe Burrow had this game, if Lamar Jackson had this game, if Patrick Mahomes had this game, if Josh Allen had this game, are you talking about Andy Reid, Zach Taylor, Todd Monken, or Joe Brady? You're not talking about them. You're talking about the quarterback. But because it's Tua, you just want to put blame on Mike McDaniel. And I ain't going to let you do it because Mike McDaniel has been trying to adjust for Tua. Right, but Tua cannot make the adjustments that Mike McDaniel is asking of him. That's the truth.
Because a lot of what you're saying is incorrect. I say that for the idea of when Tua went out there, threw 400 yards, 6 touchdowns against the Baltimore Ravens.
In week 2.
You can go back and watch. You can
week
go
2.
back and watch the tape. I said, awesome job by the offensive line. Tyreek Hill, you're a dog. Jalen Waddle, you're him. Mike McDaniel, excellent play call. But, of course, I went back to Tua because he is the quarterback, and you got to go out there and execute. Against the Bills last week, I said it. Tua has to be better. I mean, again, you try to very you lie
am
on
I
my
lying,
name.
Dehls? Am I lying? Dehls, am I
Too
lying?
often. Too
I mean,
often.
Drew gives Tua a lot of credit,
consistent.
but yeah.
I'm very consistent. I'm very consistent.
He give more credit to Tua when they win, but when they lose, it feel like he not giving Tua the most blame. Am I right or am I wrong, Dehls?
That's not true. Because here I am saying, thank you. Because here I am saying that Tua needed to be better. I've said that my guy Tua. I started this whole thing.
You need to say it. He was ass. What else there to say? He was garbage. Of course, you got to say he has to be better. He was shit. He was dog shit.
I'm here saying this to you, but at the same time, I'm acknowledging other truths of the situation. If that's not what you want me to do, this is my job to tell the whole story.
What's the biggest truth of the situation? What's the biggest truth of the situation?
That Tua kind of came down.
Do you think Tua has limitations? Do you think Tua has limitations? Do you think he gets? Do you think he gets uplifted by his system at times?
He has limitations because he's not as mobile as the other upper echelon quarterbacks in the league.
He's not as good as Jared Goff, who's a pure pocket passer. Just saying.
You understand that his offensive line is a little bit more fucking sound than, unfortunately, Miami Dolphins, where Tua has to have the quickest pass time to throw in the National Football League, or he's getting pressured religiously. That's the only thing that I'll say to that. I think that today there was some hesitancy for sure. That's where I kind of want to knock Tua in that regard. The underthrow to Tyreek Hill just seemed a little bit lackadaisical on Tua's part. I was talking to people that I was watching the game with. Hey, you got to let that one go. Put some juice behind it. Kind of threw it a little bit too, like I said, lackadaisically for my liking. Maybe that would have been a little bit more in stride. But I don't know. I think Tua let the moment get a little bit too much for him. On top of the weather situations, on top of the offense not being as consistent where we had normally seen it, them not trusting in him as we've seen them trust him all season long. You went down 2 scores, then you were just like, hey, finally, let's start passing the ball. You said they would have got blown out. Hey, they ended up getting blown out regardless, whether they were going to throw the football or not. So, yeah, let's go out slinging it because this is our quarterback and we have no choice. So, to me, I just feel like there's a little bit of inconsistency in your regard where, I'm here, and anytime I have to give slack to Tua, I do it. But I like to tell the whole story where you may not want to hear that, but that's the truth.
What was the biggest issue tonight in your eyes?
Early on, of course, just not being able to move the ball. I think that it got to a point where you needed to move off the run. The run was very obvious what the Chiefs were planning for, and you kept going for it.
Pass wasn't working either.
Let's just be honest about what happened. Tua sucked. That was the biggest issue. You giving this political answer, but it's easy. It's easy.
True or false, were the Chiefs not getting pressure on Tua the entire game?
What did I tell you when we was talking about this game? I even told Dehls when we were watching the game.
And what did I say to you?
After Tua gets off the first lead,
I'm going through all the thought processes. I'm with you. We're all sound here, but I'm going with Dolphins because I'm going to go down with the ship. I said it. I understand that this one was definitely in the Chiefs' favor. It was not an ideal matchup.
I'm not going to give you points for purposely picking the wrong answer.
I didn't say,
purposely picked the wrong answer. You purposely picked the Dolphins, knowing they was going to lose.
Agreed. And that's fine with me. I said it. I'll go down with the ship. You got to go ride. That's it. I'm here with the Dolphins. It is what it is. I'm here with Tua Tagovailoa. It is what it is. But again, I came in. You're saying that I told you before this game. I said, yeah, I sat there and I said the same exact thing. I understood what this game was going to be. I just would have liked to see my guy go out there and play a little bit better. He didn't. And that's the truth.
If I was one of the passengers on a Titanic, I'm not dying. I'm getting out alive. I don't care. You was on the Titanic and you sunk. That's your fault for not getting on a life raft. That's your fault.
I'm sorry.
You had an out.
That's just not what I'm going to do. That's
not
who I am. This is the thing
that I don't get, man. It's like, okay, if we want to talk about the X's and O's of the game, we could talk about them because we know the Chiefs on offense, they did their thing against Miami. In the red zone, the Dolphins were really great. They were, but the rushing attack for the Chiefs was working. Getting Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce on the move. They really leaned into their playmakers. And Mahomes, I mean, I've been saying it all year long. It's Mahomes. I'm going to trust him in the playoffs. They executed at a high level. We all acknowledge that. But with the offense, in the first quarter, in the first couple of drives, Tua had 4 pass attempts. 3 of them were short dink and dunk throws. And the 4th pass attempt, when they asked Tua to air it out down the field, he threw an interception. The player, the end breaker, was wide open. Tua sailed it over his head, maybe 3 yards, and it became an interception. The reason why Mike McDaniel wasn't comfortable passing the ball was because he understands Tua's limitations. That's what it is. The biggest issue.
That's a terrible coach if that's the regard.
What do you mean that's a terrible coach?
I don't think that's a terrible coach.
You let one throw in the first quarter dictate your entire game plan.
No, I think going into this game, he knew what the game plan had to be. I don't think that throw changed anything. It got
to a point where you had to adjust, and he did not do that.
What about the point where Tua had to make better throws and he was trash?
And I agree.
Tua couldn't
throw the ball.
Like Tua couldn't even do well in garbage time.
He completed 50% of his passes.
The game was over. Who really cares about garbage time?
The game was over, but he couldn't even inflate his stats in garbage time. He was getting locked up. In garbage time, he was stealing throws. What do you mean it doesn't matter? You're still supposed to score in garbage time. You're supposed to try. You're supposed to try.
We don't give out participation trophies. The game was over when they went for it on 4th down. They fell short when it was 20, whatever the score ended up being. The game was done after that. The garbage time.
Me and Dehls are saying the same thing. The biggest issue with the Dolphins tonight was Tua offensively, bro. That was the biggest issue because even when they scheme plays up, he wasn't able to execute. The offensive line, sure.
Like when? Screens?
The offensive line, sure. We can call that an issue. I'm not saying it's not an issue, but you were the same guy that discredited Joe Burrow's run to the Super Bowl. You try to mock every game that he went through, saying that he didn't have not one great game. You said he out of his 5 playoff wins, he only maybe got 1 great game. You try to discredit his entire run. And now with Tua, you want to get brownie points. You want to put the blame on Mike McDaniel. If you
keep saying I'm giving the blame to Mike when I said
that Tua is an elite quarterback.
The only reason I don't want to listen to you speak is because you're not telling the truth.
You asked Drew,
not telling the truth.
Do you still think Tua is an elite quarterback? You said after this game, probably not. But then you said you still believe Tua is an elite quarterback.
Exactly.
If he was an elite quarterback, you're going to hold him to the same standard. You're not even holding Tua to an elite quarterback standard. No, you're not. Everybody knows you're making excuses for him. Everybody knows you're making excuses for him.
But explain to me how I'm not when I'm saying that he needs to be better. He had some throws that I still think that I know that he wished that he had back. But I'm also here saying that, yes, Tua's to blame. But I'm also saying another part of the reason why the Dolphins lost is because of lack of adjustments. I'm not saying Mike McDaniel is the reason they lost.
The Dolphins lost because of the lack of adjustments. The Dolphins lost because is that not a direct correlation to taking shots?
What's the reason the Dolphins lost?
Another reason why they lost.
What can you give me the main reason why the Dolphins lost this game? Was it coaching? Was it quarterback play? Was it
AKA the quarterback? Yes. But so
Drew, can you tell me straight up what the problem was? Not like beat around the bush.
My issue being is that a lot of the passes called were screen passes. The one intermediate throw outside of the bomb touchdown that, yes, I said was underthrown was the ball to Waddle, which was in the first quarter. You did not give him a chance to push the ball downfield. You ran the ball, screen pass. That has not been your game plan all season long.
What you're saying,
that's never been what the Dolphins were.
Do you think there's a reason?
Joel, the thing that I have problems with here is you could say, yes, then Mike McDaniel does not trust Tua. I was anticipating coming up on here and you hearing the both of you guys say that. If Riv were here, I was expecting the 3 of you guys to say that. But was he given a chance to push the ball downfield outside of screen passes tonight and that interception that he had in the first quarter?
He had given that opportunity. Tyreek Hill and the interception. Those were kind of the 2 plays. He had one ball to the right side to Waddle, I want to say, which is a nice ball at the end of the first half.
What do you mean that's it? What do you mean that's it?
They only had 3 passes deep down the field or pushing the ball beyond the first down marker.
His first interception, he tried to throw it down the field or at least pass the first down marker.
quarter. When do we
up.
see a head coach give up on a quarterback after a first quarter INT?
Oh my God. I'm tired of listening to what you're saying right now because you're just saying things that are just not true. Tua had chances to throw the ball down the field.
When?
What do you mean?
In the fourth quarter when they were down 2 scores and had no choice?
You know what's funny is that we just told Drew the 2 plays he was able to throw it down the field. One of them was an interception, a terrible throw by him, and the other one was an egregious underthrow.
It was in the second drive of the game, and it ended up being a touchdown. The egregious underthrow.
Why was it a touchdown? Why was it a touchdown?
Tyreek,
not because of Tua. Not because of Tua.
Tyreek is a dog.
Not because of Tua.
And listen, go look at the tweets when Tyreek scored the touchdown. Not a word about Tua. I said Tyreek went crazy. It's an acknowledgement that Tyreek was the reason they scored that touchdown.
So let me ask you, Drew. The Dolphins tonight were 1 for 12 on third down.
Correct.
All of those 11 missed third downs were screen passes that Tua threw. They weren't throws trying to get it down the field.
The unfortunate truth of that is at least 75% of those were screens.
And you're wrong. It wasn't that way. I just think you have a way of trying to manipulate what actually happened so you can give Tua a pass.
Joel, we're going to watch the game back and you're going to see how many screen passes happened.
Yeah, we can watch the game the same way back when, remember, Dehls, when after the Titans game, Drew was defending Tua, and then I pulled up 2 plays where Tua could have made to get them in field goal range, and he didn't make them. This is a history with Tua. Tua don't make those plays when it matters.
I blame Tua for the Tennessee loss.
Tua
I said Tua needed to be better.
But before I showed you the film, you was protecting Tua.
I hold Tua like he's perfect.
That's
not the case.
You do.
No, that's not true. That's not true. When he lost to the Bills, I gave him shit. When he lost to the Titans, I gave him shit. That's the reason you're pissing me off right now. I don't treat him like he's Jesus Christ walking on fucking water.
Yes, you do.
I say when
yes, you do. Yes, you do. And everybody knows you're lying.
Joel and Joel. True or false, when he lost to Tennessee and he had a chance to go and win the game, I gave him shit for it because he didn't.
But that doesn't mean you don't hold him to this Jesus Christ level standard. He's your favorite player in the league. You think he's an elite quarterback. You think he was an MVP candidate.
Which is why I think he's going to play well. But my point being is when he doesn't, I'm here saying he didn't play well. True or false?
But I'm asking you, like, what's the biggest issue? Well, the pass game couldn't get going. So I'm like,
which is Tua? Which is Tua? Which is what I'm saying.
Tua was the biggest problem tonight.
If
we just saying, come to that agreement that Tua was the biggest issue in tonight's game?
Tua is the quarterback. Yes, Tua did not push the ball downfield enough for us to have a chance to win this game. I've said that multiple times.
If you're saying,
I just want to say, it's just like he didn't push it down the field. He didn't get an opportunity to do this. It's like, bro, it was his fucking fault. He didn't have a good game. He was bad today.
Joel, can I ask you, what did you want him to do with the play calling put forth with him?
Oh, I think there was opportunities to push the ball down the field. There was opportunities.
Name them.
Was every play a screen pass or a run? No,
it wasn't.
Not everyone, but it felt that way in the first half and early in the third quarter.
Let me ask you something, Drew. What does your dad think about Tua?
My dad doesn't like him anymore.
He's a smart man.
Oh, he's
a fucking smart man. He knows what the fuck he's seeing. A quarterback that's limited. That's not an elite quarterback or a franchise quarterback. He knows
he's a pocket passer that does not have that good of an offensive line. And then on top of it, if you rush him, he makes some bad decisions.
Well, Joe Burrow made the Super Bowl with no offensive line at all, but he's a lot more.
But
you didn't hold Burrow to that high regard when he made it, though. You criticized
his defense was healthy. His defense was great. Evan McPherson was
awesome.
awesome.
The Dolphins defense showed out tonight, didn't they, Dehls? Wouldn't you say they played well? They played well.
They played well for the amount of injuries, no doubt. I definitely
they played well.
I think they played well.
They played well regardless. They played well regardless.
It was hard to play offense in this frozen situation. Mahomes is Mahomes. He's going to go out there and do his thing, though. So credit to him and the Kansas City Chiefs.
And what Dehls is saying about the passing game is because if I'm saying the issue is the passing game, that doesn't just mean it's the quarterback, because the passing game can be, well, the receivers could have missed catches, the play caller could have called bad plays, or the quarterback could have been bad. So him saying that you just saying the biggest issue is the passing game, that is very vague when we all know that the biggest issue was their quarterback, bro. And I think that there are a lot of people that weren't fooled by his stats, and we can just call it how it is. You know, his stats are great. These past 2 seasons, his stats have been amazing. And when John compared Tua to Ryan Tannehill, I think you got a little bit over the top about it because you thought it was disrespect. But what's the difference between this current version of Tua and 2019 and 2020 Ryan Tannehill? I mean, what is the real difference? They're both guys that are elevated by their system, but they're not per se elevating guys around them. When the going gets tough, he folds.
I'm looking back at this first half, and it's around that second quarter where you look at the drive where after they scored the touchdown, they had 6 plays. A run from Mostert, a run from Mostert, a run from Mostert, a run from Mostert. 4 plays in a row, goes for 12, 15, 21 yards on 4 runs. Solid gains for sure. It's 3rd and 1. They have the screen to Mostert. Don't run it again. They run the screen to Mostert. Do you think that was a bad play or a bad pass, a bad drop? I mean, if you guys remember what I'm talking about, either which way you shake it, 3rd and 1, screen pass. They go for it on 4th to Tyreek Hill. Pressure's on to a Tagovailoa, has to escape. Pressure on his shoulder. He's getting his jersey ripped. Throws it to Tyreek Hill.
It's a bad
incomplete pass. If you want to say it's a bad
throw, it was
on
the inside of Hill. It was on the inside of Hill.
But again, it's still a tough one where he was already being double covered. Tyreek still had a body on him. He threw it on him. Maybe if you want to say he threw it on this side of his chest, okay. Yeah. But still, it's not like it. I'm not calling that a bad play. Maybe Tua probably should have just took off and got the first down on his own. But that's just another situation where you go ahead and you don't get the drive continued in that situation. But on 3rd and 4th down, it was a pass that was within 2 yards. But you don't run it there. You don't run it there. On 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1, you don't run the ball. And then the next drive that they end up punting, a run with Devon Achane, Tua to Tyreek Hill pass that was a screen. Tyreek Hill false start, and then Tua is sacked. It's like this was constantly the entire game. This was every drive until we got into the 4th quarter where they finally decided, hey, we're down. We need to really let this thing rip. And then they did so and still ended up with no result. But it took them until that situation was the back against the wall for them to stop throwing screens and checkdowns.
Are you telling me that Tua also, because you were talking about how, there was a lot of screen passes in this game, which before I get in depth on why there was a lot of screens, I mean, how many screens did we see where Tua threw it in the dirt or Tua made a bad pass on a screen pass?
How many? I'm wondering.
It was about like 5. I mean, Tua had a lot of bad throws. Yes, he did. I mean, Tua had a lot of throws that hit the dirt.
The one that I didn't like was the one it was the left side of the field, and I think he just kind of shorted it. That was early on in the game. I think that might have been the same drive where he threw that interception. Yeah.
Okay, we all know the Dolphins' offensive line is not good, right? So you're playing a strategy which is shying away from screens, which screens can work. And they also negate the pass rush. It helps your offensive line not have to just go into a straight drop back game. You're telling me a better formula to win was for Tua to drop back and scan the field behind a suspect offensive line. That's the better way to win.
My question is, if you see it's not working, you go to it, it's not working. At what point do we realize, let's do something new? This isn't it. Let's do something else. I'm this amazing offensive mind. I'm one of the smartest offensive minds in the league. I agree with you guys. Mike McDaniel is an amazing coach. At what point do we adjust? What point do we do that? If this isn't working, if the easiest thing in the game is not working for us, I agree with you, Joel. 10,000% you're right. If this isn't working for us, we have to try something else.
Because you have said the same thing for Sean McVay when he faced Bill Belichick in the 2018 Super Bowl when Jared Goff wasn't good in that game. Because you have said the same thing for Sean McVay.
Guess that was 2019. I'd have to go back and watch that game, but I know they only scored 3 points.
The truth is that average quarterbacks limit offenses. And Tua, through all his stats against actual good competition, when games actually matter, he's average. That's what it is. All these adjustments you're calling for on the film, McDaniel has made adjustments and Tua has not adjusted to his adjustments. Tua is still missing throws, and Tua is someone that's still people try to call him an elite processor. He's not an elite processor. He, to this point, has been very one-read quarterback. Why do you think he has the fastest time to throw? Because as soon as the ball is snapped, also because the first play, the first receiver that's always open is the one that McDaniel dials up in the play. He doesn't give Tua much to think about post-snap. He doesn't process much post-snap. So when we get into a game where he has to process more post-snap, McDaniel knows what Tua can and can't do, and we get these outcomes.
Dropping back, straight dropbacks, screens, rollouts, play action, and asking Tua to scan the field in those temperatures would have been worse than what they were doing. I think that becomes the issue, is that when things aren't working, that's typically when you've seen Patrick Mahomes be able to rush for 30 yards and Josh Allen running over people and making these throws. Tua he has some elite traits, right? Like, I think he has great accuracy. I think he has really good touch on the ball. But what we've been saying really for feels like 2 seasons now is when things break down in the play, and when Tua does have to hold on to the ball for, instead of 2.5 seconds, he has to hold on the ball for 3 or 4 seconds. He doesn't have the ability, as a lot of other top quarterbacks do, to be able to make something out of nothing. And this game, that's kind of what you're asking him to do. You're asking him to drop back, to read the field with an offensive line that hasn't been playing well. And is he expected just in and out of reads, be able to get the ball out quick without getting sacked? That feels like something that wasn't even working when you were doing designed rollouts or when you were running screens. There was still pressure coming. So now you're going to be putting even more pressure on that 5 offensive linemen. I think Mike McDaniel is one of the best offensive minds in the NFL. I don't think he went into this game saying, we're going to do this no matter what. I don't care what the score is at halftime. This is our game plan. I think he genuinely knows that if he's going to ask Tua to sit back and read the field against one of the top offenses in these conditions, the outcome's not going to be better than what the other option is.
What do we think the Dolphins go from here? Where do you think they go from here? It could next year be Tua's last year with the Dolphins.
There's a chance. I definitely think there's a chance. Yeah, I mean, if it's another, obviously, if they miss the playoffs, I think so. If they're one and done in the playoffs, I think so. I really, it's hard to justify me right now that I could pay Tua $40+ million. I mean, we've seen across the NFL, once you have to pay your quarterback, a lot of other pieces, going now and trading for Tyreek Hill, trading for Jalen Ramsey, trading, paying Bradley Chubb, all of these moves you have made to make the Dolphins a championship level team. Once you pay that quarterback, it's a lot harder to plug those spots because of the salary cap. So if Tua's not able to uplift a team, if you're not able to make probably an AFC championship game with Tua having some, real moments in those games, it's hard to pay him top of the market quarterback money, which I'm assuming is what he's going to be aiming for.
Definitely think it depends on how next season ends. He's going to have a similar amazing statistical season like he did this year. I have no doubt about it. But again, when you have the roster that the front office has tried to put in place, expectation is you go out there and you win multiple playoff games. Unfortunately, a lot of those guys got injured this season. I think that next season you do need to still, you got to find a way to get better if you are Tua Tagovailoa, and no way around it. But I think that depending on the outcome, we could see the Miami Dolphins move forward. But it depends on that quarterback situation for them moving forward too. What's our options outside of Tua Tagovailoa? To me, that's where this conversation becomes a little bit more difficult if you're the Dolphins, which is why I believe he will be their long-term quarterback. But if they can find somebody else that they think would be better for them, we have to see how that looks at the end of next season. But with where we stand right now, I still see Tua as the Dolphins' long-term quarterback.
Maybe this game is fooling me. Maybe it's not. I don't think it really is. Am I crazy for saying the Chiefs can go to the Super Bowl? They can make it out the AFC.
It's tough. I wouldn't call you crazy because it's the Chiefs, it's Mahomes, it's Andy Reid. I guess I wouldn't call you crazy. Still don't think their offense looked spectacular today outside of Mahomes just doing some Mahomes-esque things on third, on fourth, taking off when he needed to, extending drives. Of Rashee Rice, you just have to give him endless praise to do this as a rookie. We've only seen one rookie in Andy Reid's tenure have success like this, and it was Deshaun Jackson. What Rashee Rice is doing this season has been nothing short of amazing. So give a lot of credit to him. This defense is legit. It's one of the best units in football. You're not crazy. I mean, you're betting on the best. So I guess couldn't call you crazy for it.
This is probably the Chiefs' most impressive win all season. It felt like down the stretch all regular season, we were kind of waiting on the moment to click. We were waiting for the offense to click. And it felt like it did click in this Miami matchup. Now, again, I think this was the worst possible matchup for the Miami Dolphins going into Cold City, Kansas City, going up against Patrick Mahomes and that defense. So if we assume the Buffalo Bills win, that's going to be a huge test. You know, if they're able to get past the Buffalo Bills, you're going into that Ravens game with a lot of confidence.
Sure.
I think
assuming the Ravens win.
I think they can. This was their most impressive win of the year. They put up 26 points, and there were so many missed opportunities. We have MVS failing to track 2 deep balls that could have been big-time explosive plays, and he just mistracked them.
Another one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Travis Kelce dropped one in the red zone that could have been a touchdown or got them at least into the red zone. I look at the Chiefs, and I don't know why they can't. I think defense wins championships. They have an elite-level defense. I think they'd beat the Bills. I know that matchup is going to be tough, but I think they would beat the Bills. I think Mahomes, you still got to trust him in the playoffs, and he's always going to play really well. And the running game is going. As long as he can rush the football and keep defenses on their toes, because Mahomes sees a lot of light boxes. They play a lot of too high against them, which means that there are going to be more lanes in the running game for Pacheco to get into. It's easier for him to run the football. I think they could definitely make it. The Bills are not the matchup that scares me. The Ravens are the matchup that scares me. Definitely. But I think the Ravens are also a team that they don't have a proven track record in the playoffs. And depending on how they play against, whether it's the Texans, they're probably going to play next round. If the Steelers win, I think they face the Steelers, I think. So depending on how they play, it might change my opinion a little bit. But I don't know. I think the Ravens, they're the best team in football for sure. They've earned that right. But you can't count out the Chiefs, man. You know, I understand the regular season concerns, but you cannot count this team out. They have still so much talent and star power. And in the biggest game of the year, Travis Kelce played really well. And that opened up Rashee Rice. And now Rice is playing well. If Rice can just take on that Juju role or be better, I mean, this is a team that's similar to the one that won last year. And Mahomes is on a hobbled ankle last year. And Mahomes is healthy now.
To me, the one doubt that seeps in would be that Ravens pass rush, getting to Patrick Mahomes with the tackles. I still worry about that if I'm one that thinks the Chiefs can go to the Super Bowl. Ravens can go out there and get pressure on Mahomes. And just on the opposite side, it just seems like things are different right now with the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson. The way that they're passing the ball, the way that Lamar Jackson has just completely got a stranglehold of what's going on with the offense. He runs everything. He is the engine, similarly to how a Patrick Mahomes is the engine on his team. Obviously not at the level of a Patrick Mahomes, but you understand what I mean by that. He just seems to be the most confident we've seen him. I do have my struggles thinking that the Chiefs can get past them, given the Ravens are the best defense in football. Yes, the Chiefs do have an amazing defense in their own right, but offensively, if you're the Kansas City Chiefs going up against that Baltimore Ravens defense, we know that the Ravens can get pressure. We know that they can make it a little bit uncomfortable for Patrick Mahomes, where in situations like today where Miami was blitzing the Chiefs at a high rate, and obviously Mahomes is still so smart, able to get out of there. You're going up against better talent in the Baltimore Ravens. I wonder how that one shakes up. To me, I would lean Baltimore.
We also got news that Mark Andrews back at practice. That's going to be a huge lift to this Ravens offense. Seems like there's a chance he's going to play in the second round. If they're able to advance, it seems very likely he's able to play in the AFC Championship game. So if you have Mark Andrews out there, we've seen likely down the stretch step up, and of course Zay Flowers, who in his own right is having a fantastic rookie season. And of course, how could I forget Dalvin Cook now being part of that backfield there in Baltimore? I'm sure he'll get a couple of carries too. But I would probably still favor Baltimore there. Again, I don't want to call this fool's gold. Not saying it's fool's gold, but this was the perfect matchup for KC to get this Miami team on the road. So big test next week against Buffalo.
So we've spent over 40 minutes on this topic with the Dolphins and the Chiefs. I think it's time to move on to the first game that happened on Wild Card Weekend on this Saturday day. Shout out to the 385 viewers in the live on YouTube, by the way. We have 31 on playback right now. Shout out to you guys. Make sure you guys drop a like and subscribe if you guys aren't subscribed already. Texans beat the Browns 45-14. And I think they lost because of their defense. I mean, how could you think otherwise? Joe Flacco had the 2 pick-sixes in the second half. And up to that point, he was playing really well. It was unfortunate that he had to be in that position because he was somebody that can hold afloat the Browns. He's not somebody that can kind of carry the fort for them. And they put him in a position that I don't think he should be in if you want to win games. But I mean, CJ Stroud, of course, incredible, 274 yards, 3 touchdowns, 16 for 21. But how these touchdowns came about, you have a 15-yard screen pass touchdown to Nico Collins, where he just takes it to the house. Brevin Jordan took a screen pass, 76 yards for a touchdown. He had to wear an oxygen mask on the sideline after that. The third touchdown, Dalton Schultz gets past the defense. It was a little bit of a coverage bust. The safety didn't know where to be. He gets a touchdown. I think that Bobby Slowick earned himself a head coaching opportunity with this performance. The Browns are a top defense in the NFL, and Slowick designed the perfect game plan, a perfect balance of misdirection in the run game, running to the outside, trying to negate the pass rush with screen passes, and then hitting explosives down the field in a timely manner. I think that he earned himself a coaching opportunity. CJ Stroud maybe could have had even more yardage had he hit Nico Collins down the field to throw that he missed by just a little bit. And I think there was another throw that CJ didn't put on the money like that. But Bobby Slowick, to me, is going to be a head coach. I mean, this performance kind of stamped it. When you put up 45 points against one of the league's best defenses, you've earned yourself a shot to be the head coach. And I know CJ is the big storyline in all this, but I really thought that this was more so a Bobby Slowick masterclass and him just pulling out all the tricks out of his bag in his play calling.
Shout out to the Houston Texans, man, to go from where they were last season to this season with the playoff win. I want to compare it to the Giants of last season, but it feels a little bit more than the Giants of last season because just the ability of CJ Stroud is just, it's unbelievable how good this guy is. I was the only one to pick Cleveland up here. I thought their defense would be able to step up. I wish I looked at the splits of those home and away points per game because I was not aware how terrible that defense was on the road. But it really felt like everything came crashing down that third quarter. You know, it was a one possession game. Both teams were able to move the ball. To me, it felt like the Texans had control of this game, even though in the first half the Browns were able to hit some big plays. You had Harrison Bryant have a big catch. David Njoku on the second drive of the game, I want to say, had a big 30, 40-yard catch down the field. But it felt like Houston's was more sustainable. And then in the second half, you just have Joe Flacco back-to-back pick sixes. I don't know if it's back-to-back or 2 and 3 drives, whatever. And then everything there, it just came crashing down. You know, this Browns team for the last 4 or 5 weeks, Joe Flacco had been such an upgrade over what they had. PJ Walker, DTR, even Deshaun Watson in some moments, that if you thought Joe Flacco could play complementary football to an elite defense, you felt really good about this Browns team. The issue is they went on the road to one of the hottest offenses in football. The defense got torn to shreds, and then Joe Flacco did not play complementary football. He threw multiple interceptions and just completely took them out of this game. So give credit, you're right. Bobby Slowick is going to be in head coaching conversations. He's going to get interviews. What he's done in just one season with CJ Stroud has been super impressive. And overall, just kind of turning around the culture. Of course, D'Amico Ryans gets a lot of credit. But when you're looking at CJ Stroud's growth in this offense, too, who have Nico Collins out there, you're out Tank Dell. Noah Brown goes out in the first or second quarter of this game. So it's Dalton Schultz, of course, John Mechie, and Robert Woods are your wide receiver 2 and 3, and you have Nico Collins. It's not like it's this superstar lineup of wide receivers and weapons. In the running back room, Devin Singletary and Dameon Pierce is nothing to write home about either. So the fact this offense is able to be so prolific, CJ Stroud is able to, he makes high-level throws, but he also finds a lot of guys that are just open in space too, and that gives credit to the offensive scheme and the design there. So a masterclass for the Texans. I'm happy for them. But next week against Baltimore, man, on the road, that's going to be a bit of a different environment. Being home, inside, in the dome, it's going to favor that high-octane passing offense. Going on the road to Baltimore, another great defense, but outside in Baltimore, I think it might be a bit of a different outcome.
If I'm the Texans, I'm praying, Bobby Slowick, please stay with us next season. We just got a rookie quarterback, and you're able to do this. Imagine what we can do if we stick around together for some time. But obviously, that doesn't seem to be realistic. If I'm Bobby, I want my own team that I can run and make decisions for. I get that for sure. But if I'm the Texans, I'm doing everything I can to keep him as my OC because you see what the result can be against the number one statistically great defense in the National Football League. You do get Denzel Ward back for the Cleveland Browns. Didn't matter. Secondary was getting absolutely gashed all day long. And in the first half, CJ Stroud had unbelievable statistics. To me, I'm giving him a B+, A-. There was 2 moments where Nico Collins could have had one of the greatest games we've seen in playoff history. That bomb touchdown that he was ahead of this guy by almost a mile. He had him wide open, just slightly overthrew him. He has an unbelievable arm, but sometimes you got to take off a little bit mustard on that one. And then the one where Nico Collins had to adjust his body to the opposite side. This was the Nico Collins show on offense. He had himself an unbelievable game, the yards after the catch, his ability to make some tough adjustments. He is a very great wide receiver in this National Football League. And I say that in due part that CJ Stroud is great. He is a top 10 quarterback in the National Football League right now. I do firmly believe that. But Nico Collins is not great because of CJ Stroud. Nico Collins is great because of Nico Collins. He's a great talent in his own right, has great speed, has great hands, has great route running ability, knows how to read defenses and get open when he needs to. Nico is a great wide receiver talent, and I'm here for CJ Stroud praise, but let's not have that at the expense of a Nico Collins, who needs his own credit in that regard. But what a game from the Houston Texans. To talk about the Cleveland Browns for a quick second. Credit to Joe Flacco. I mean, absolutely no hate from this side. To come out of a brief retirement, to come back onto the football field and help the Cleveland Browns make the playoffs. Be a team that, hey, have people convinced that this could be one of those teams that could upset some squads. You had that feeling that with the way that he was playing a little bit too loose with the football at times, that he would be the one that would turn the ball over and then this game would get a little bit out of hand. I never anticipated 45 points from the Houston Texans. I know that there were 2 pick sixes, and I know that that offense of the Houston Texans could do whatever they wanted. I never anticipated this much of an ass kicking, but Joe Flacco, he did as good of a job as he could in the position that he was. Want to give him his respect, him his flowers. But the Cleveland Browns, unfortunately, I never felt were that team to really compete for it. I gave them their respect because, hey, defenses can take you far. But with the way that Joe Flacco was turning the ball over, if this was the guy that you were going to put all your faith into, that's where I had my reservations. And again, that's not a slight to Joe Flacco. He did a job that what he was asked to. It's just, unfortunately, he wasn't that guy to get them to that next level. But again, credit to the Cleveland Browns. Unfortunate that your ride has to end here, but Houston Texans, I do legitimately believe this is the team that will be going to the AFC Championship game. I do think that will be a reality.
They'll beat the Ravens?
I'm thinking about my bracket. Not happening. I don't know if the Texans will beat the Ravens. I think it'll be a great game. I'm thinking about my bracket where I had the Dolphins playing the Ravens and the Ravens moving on. No, it'll be a great game. I'm going to have to sit on that one, but I still think the Ravens would handle business.
They played week 1, and CJ was pretty good in that game. You know, who knows what happens from that game to now. But anything that happens now moving forward with the Texans, I think is just a cherry on top to the season they've had. I think every Texans fan, they were satisfied with making the playoffs and winning the division, winning a playoff game. Now they're over the top. Anything else from here is just an added bonus, but I think they've already had a successful season. The Browns, though, the Browns is tricky because it took Joe Flacco fresh off a couch to save their year and give them a competent offense. Deshaun Watson's cap hit next year is $64 million.
God bless.
Of course, that's going to get restructured, but it's still going to be very hard to build a roster around Deshaun Watson, and he's not good. He's not a good quarterback.
I believe Amari Cooper is also a free agent after the season. I'm about to check that.
This was the Browns' opportunity to make a run. They had an elite defense that didn't show up when it matters, you know, for what that's worth. But this was their chance to kind of shock people. I think next year they're not going to catch anybody by surprise. And if Deshaun Watson doesn't magically turn into who we think he used to be, then it feels like the Browns, I mean, they're already in territory where this trade's going to go down as all-time bad. But if he cannot even match Joe Flacco's production, then this is going to look much worse.
Mark Cooper, free agent 2025, by the way. But they've restructured Deshaun's contract last year, too, I want to say. It's going to be tough for Cleveland. You know, this felt like this whole year really felt like a bit too good to be true, especially down the stretch. I know I was one to pick them, thought they could win this game, but even still, it felt like all season long down the stretch, it felt just something was wrong. Like, it's working now, but it's not going to work forever. Getting Deshaun Watson back and healthy, he had some moments this season where he was fine to good. He never really had any moments of excellence. We never really saw the Houston Deshaun Watson where he's making plays on the run. He's making, these insane big arm throws, 40, 50 yards down the field, getting these chunk plays consistently. He's had moments, especially as a rusher this season. But the guy the Browns traded for, we're going on 4 years now, removed 3-4 years now, removed on that. Now you're getting into his later 20s. And with this contract, it's very similar to the Russell Wilson contract where you can't just be good. You can't just be a top 15 quarterback and we're going to be able to accept that. Deshaun Watson needs to go out there and be able to match these quarterbacks in the AFC with Lamar's and Mahomes and these guys. If he's not able to do that, Cleveland has no chance to compete for a Super Bowl.
Yeah, go look at the Denver Broncos. You don't trade 2-3 first-round picks for someone that's going to be top 15. That's not going to get the job done. Simply will not do that. I'll tell you from firsthand experience, you need to be a lot better than that. And Deshaun, you're right, Joel. He hadn't shown that. The closest I think that fans got to seeing that was that game versus the Ravens, where he's extending, goes and picks up that first down with his legs. That might be the only time that we've seen it so far. But outside of that, I think Joe Flacco played the best quarterback football for the Cleveland Browns this season. And that's sad. Given the fact you gave up 3 first-round picks, you mentioned it, going to be on the books for $60 million next season. It's not ideal if you're a Cleveland Browns fan. This defense is amazing, but you go as far as your quarterback takes you.
And you gave them 3 first-round picks. The team you gave 3 first-round picks to just eliminated you from the playoffs and hosted a playoff game. The Texans have been able to rebuild faster than the Browns, and they've had more success with their rookie quarterback than the Browns have had with the quarterback they guaranteed $200+ million to. And his contract is fully guaranteed. So no matter how many times they restructure it, they're eventually going to have to pay him all that money. And if he is not good next year, and it's clear that the best pathway forward is to move on, then that's going to be a huge hit to them.
I'm just looking at this Deshaun Watson contract. Sorry, Drew. Unless they're trading for him, there's like no way out of this contract to like 2026. If they released him this season, $200 million in dead cap. Next season, $136 million in dead cap. And in 2026, it would be 73 million in dead cap. If they're able to trade him, it's only 26 million, but who's taking on a $60 million cap hit for Deshaun Watson? So they're basically tied with him through 2026, unless they're able to trade Deshaun Watson. Here's a first-round pick to get off that contract.
If you are Deshaun Watson, you have to take something from this season and take something from Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco oversimplified things to a certain degree where kind of ended up playing a little bit sloppy at times, but he just made the game so simple for himself. Oh, I have Njoku, who is actually one of the better receiving tight ends in the league. Let me throw him the ball on a consistent basis, and we could actually push the ball downfield. I have Amari Cooper. I understand that he, for the first time in, I believe, Browns history, has recorded back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. No other wide receiver has done that. And that's also when you had Josh Gordon, who put up one of the best seasons that we've seen from a Cleveland Brown, but he couldn't do it in back-to-back seasons. We need to realize, if I'm Deshaun Watson, hey, I have guys that I could throw the ball to and we could push the ball downfield. Joe Flacco didn't have the luxury of playing with Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb hopefully will be back next season. This offense will get a little bit more juice, but it needs to be that simple for Deshaun. I have 2 guys that I can trust. Me holding on to the ball is not going to help us play winning football. I need to trust my receivers. I need to trust my tight end. I need to trust my running backs that we can make plays and they can help me get to where I want to go. I can't be a superhero every single time I'm out in the football field. Joe Flacco showed that. You need to go out there next season and you need to take Joe Flacco's advice and go out there and just get back to the basics of just letting the ball rip.
Shout out to the 408 people watching on YouTube live right now. It's 12:40 East Coast time. So thank you guys for staying up with us. And on playback, we got 21 people, got 2 super chats to read. And then we got a question in the playback that is interesting that I want to answer. It's a would you rather kind of. So Josh Boateng goes, Drew's deflection game is Hall of Fame worthy with the laughing emoji and 100 emoji.
Hey, I appreciate it. I wasn't deflecting. Trying to be sincere, trying to be 100% honest with what I saw tonight.
Sam Trill goes, love the jersey, Joel. You believed in us all season with the heart. Oh, I love that. Oh, it touched my heart. You know, I'm here with Chiefs Kingdom, baby. Let's go.
Just said something that wasn't nice. So let's
Chiefs
move on.
Kingdom. Now, Matty Boy goes, since people have been saying it, what quarterbacks would you take over CJ Stroud right now? So this is going to be a little bit of a would you rather. How many quarterbacks are you taking over CJ Stroud right now? Dak Prescott.
I'm taking CJ Stroud.
I'm going to respect the season that Dak Prescott had. I'm going to still take Dak Prescott, but understand that CJ Stroud is unbelievably good.
So how I'm going to do mine is I'm going to do mine based off how good I think they are right now, not really future, because then it kind of eliminates the old guys.
That's how I'm doing it. Correct.
Yeah. I'm still going to go with Dak Prescott. I think he had a very underrated season. Probably should have been top 2 MVP candidate. He was phenomenal. He really was. Josh Allen.
I'm going to take Josh.
I'm taking Josh Allen over CJ Stroud as well. Justin Herbert.
I'm going to be honest. I don't know.
Would you take Dak Prescott over Justin Herbert?
No, not me. I'm taking Justin Herbert over Stroud.
I appreciate that, Joel. I needed that perspective. I'm going to take Herbert.
Brock Purdy.
Going to take CJ Stroud.
I'm taking CJ Stroud as well. Trevor Lawrence.
Taking CJ Stroud. I'm going to have
a month ago.
A month ago or 6 weeks ago, I was taking Trevor Lawrence. I'm taking CJ Stroud now.
I'm taking CJ Stroud as well.
I'm in the exact same boat. I'm here taking this L. CJ Stroud, you got it. You got it. In your first game against the best defense in the league, arguably, you go out there and have yourself this type of ball game. No. You earned some respect today. You definitely have that notch over every other quarterback in the AFC South.
Kyler Murray
is another one that I might have to eat my words on, but it's tough. It's tough because Kyler Murray still has great attributes, and as the season progressed, we saw him get a little bit better, more comfortable as a passer. We know he's an elite rusher for the quarterback position. Damn, this is tough. Joel, if you have an answer, say it, because I'm taking
CJ Stroud.
I'm taking CJ Stroud as well.
I think he's a better passer. I think he's a better processor. I think he's better touch on the ball.
There are very few touch on it.
Hold on.
I do.
Pause. Better touch.
I do. Kyler's great touch, but I think
Kyler has one of the best deep ball accuracy that there is.
Last year was one of the worst, though.
CJ Stroud was number 1 in the NFL this season in deep ball accuracy.
Accurate-wise? Really?
In 2022, Kyler was one of the worst.
His quarterback rating down 20-plus yards was like 140 or 150 this year. It was absolutely ridiculous.
There aren't many quarterbacks. You go, Drew.
I'm going to take CJ Stroud, but I just want to respect Kyler Murray. I still think that he's a lot better than what people give him credit for.
Joe Burrow.
I'm
taking Joe Burrow, too.
I don't have much hesitation here.
Oh, please respect Joe Burrow. What the hell are we doing, man? Oh, my God.
All right, let me ask you a question, Joel.
Why was Dak Prescott easier than Joe Burrow?
Dak Prescott had a top 2 quarterback season this year, so respect him.
Joe Burrow had 2 top. Joe Burrow had 2 top 5 quarterbacks.
Can I ask my question, gentlemen? Please, can I ask?
Yes.
What team is better, this Houston team or the Bengals team that went to the Super Bowl? I'm asking. I'm just asking for conversation purposes.
I think it's similar.
Better?
I really don't think it's that
more
crazy.
Talented. Who's better? Who would you
probably the Bengals? I would say,
but a little bit, not that much.
I would say the Bengals. Yeah, because the offensive line is a lot worse, but you have 2, insane weapons with Chase and Higgins, of course. Defenses are both, above average.
I'm gonna stay away from the hater tag that gets thrown on my name. I'm gonna go with Joe Burrow, but CJ Stroud's lit.
It's a simple answer, man. What are we doing?
Yeah,
my God, it's Joe Burrow.
Year one, CJ Stroud. Did you see what he did today? He's nuts.
It's really a shame.
Burrow's first year healthy, he went to the Super Bowl.
and the next year went to the AFC Championship.
And CJ Stroud's first year, he's going to the second round of the playoffs.
Salute.
It's not the same.
I need if he gets to the Super Bowl, we can have that conversation.
What if he beats the Ravens? What if he beats the Ravens and loses to Mahomes? What are we saying?
Well, then now we have serious conversations.
I would still be taking Burrow, but no. That means if he beats the Ravens, that means you're putting him in like top 5, top 4, 3 conversations.
That's what I'm saying. That is what I'm saying.
CJ Stroud, I think that there just needs to be context with him because people are getting carried away because he's a rookie and he's new, so everybody is getting carried away. But if you objectively look at the performance that he had, I don't know how anybody can attribute more credit to him than to Bobby Slowick. I mean, the 3 touchdowns, the first one was Nico Collins' yak alpha screen. The second one was Brevin Jordan, 76 yards. And the third one was Dalton Schultz getting behind a defense. Like, there's no doubt Stroud played well, but I think similar to how, all year long I have been banging the drum that, of course, we all know Brock Purdy is getting scheme help. CJ Stroud, contrary to popular belief, is not in a shit situation. He is getting scheme help as well, which, I mean, every quarterback gets scheme help, but, CJ Stroud, when he's been asked to make difficult throws, he's done it. I think that's the difference between him and other guys. But he definitely is getting a lot of scheme help. And I mean, Joe Burrow. I mean, come on, man. Let's respect Joe Burrow.
It's Joe Burrow.
Let's respect Joe Burrow, man.
It took a while, but we got there.
I chose Joe.
Lamar Jackson.
I'm gonna go with Lamar Jackson, MVP. Come on.
I'm still going with Lamar Jackson. Matthew Stafford. I'm going with Matthew Stafford. I think Matthew Stafford's better right now.
And that's why I fuck with you, Joel. I fuck with you for that one. It's close. It's close as hell, but Matthew Stafford I still think is the better quarterback right now.
It's Stafford, and if I'm using this logic, I would probably go back and switch Dak because I was thinking more so.
Thank you. That was disrespectful. That was disrespectful.
When it comes to CJ Stroud, I think there's 2 lists. How many quarterbacks am I taking over CJ Stroud moving forward? I think the list is very short. It's Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. That's 4. Justin Herbert. And then after that, I struggle to name somebody else. I think there's only about 5, 6 quarterbacks I take over CJ Stroud moving forward. But present day where he ranks, I think all those guys I mentioned are better. Dak is better. Matthew Stafford is better. Who else is better? Jalen Hurts can be in that conversation. He can be in it. But I think CJ is better than Tua. I think he's better than Goff. And I think him and Jordan Love is a serious conversation too. So I think CJ is around like the 9 to 11 spot right now amongst current quarterbacks, but there's very few that I'm taking over him just like outright. Because I think even when you get into like the Jordan Loves of the world, there's an argument for CJ Stroud being over Love in that.
Yeah, CJ Stroud doing it in year 1 starting compared to Love being able to sit on the bench,
Yeah, pretty much. That's the big difference. So the quarterbacks we didn't name, Jalen Hurts, you would take CJ Stroud or Jalen Hurts?
That's tough, man. That's tough.
I thought you guys froze on me, but you just didn't answer.
I know Drew didn't like dead air. I was hoping he was going to talk first. I'd probably still go with Hurts for now. But Stroud's in that conversation. He's in that conversation for sure.
If we're saying right now, I still would take Jalen Hurts. Going forward, it's iffy. It gets really fucking iffy. This guy, CJ Stroud, is amazing.
Statistically, Jalen Hurts kind of reverted back to like 2021 Hurts, passer rating wise. I don't think like production wise he did, but passer rating wise, it was 2021 Hurts.
Last 5 games did him
You're
dirty.
terrible.
Outside of that game versus the Cardinals, the games did him dirty.
I will say I think Stroud is more talented than Jalen Hurts. I think he's more talented than him.
I think he probably has more arm talent than him.
I think he does too. But yeah, I mean that's gonna do it. That's gonna wrap it up. Shout out to the 438 people in the live stream watching right now. We have 18 on playback. We had some people leave on playback.
Here to watch
that's
me
fine.
Get destroyed. I appreciate all you guys that turned up here just to see me eat shit on Tua. Really means a lot to me. If you guys stuck it around this long, though, like the stream. If you aren't already subscribed to the channel, come on. What are you doing? Subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification bell so you know we go live like nights like tonight.
And if you guys are on YouTube, you can look like to your top right. It says playback with Pick a Side. And that's because we have made a deal with Pick a Side that each time we go live on here, they give them some compensation for going live on here. So watching us on playback helps us a lot. And we are trying to make this more exclusive for you guys. And playback has done a great job having a great interface and helping us do that. We've been trying to do this for a while, but this is the first time we've been able to do it. And yeah, playback is a great app. We're going to be watching NBA games on here. So on playback, you're able to watch NBA games and we'll be able to do watch alongs. You can come up on stage. So just go down to the link below, playback.tv/pickaside, and join our room. We have 1,220 members, but join our room. So whenever we're live on here, you guys get that too. But that's going to do it for this episode, NFL Saturday Wildcard Reaction. Tomorrow we'll be back. Hopefully we have Riv for that. Do you guys think Riv is showing up?
Slim chance.
Nah, he's got to make up for tonight. He's got to make up for tonight.
I was nice to the Browns. I was nice to the Browns today. If Riv were here, it wouldn't have been that nice.
No Riv Academy, no showing up for the live stream. What's this guy doing?
But he tells me to do my job.
Let us know in the chat. Do you think Riv is coming tomorrow or not? Say yes or no. Is he coming tomorrow or not? Maybe if he has some pressure, some fan influence, he'll come. But thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys next time. And we are still live on playback, by the way.